Today, I'm going to tell you a story about a dog that hit the jackpot. A dog that hit the jackpot. And that dog's name is Owa. And Owa is the newest member of my family. I'll get into all the details in just a second, but first I want to introduce myself. Guys, my name is Andrew. I'm a Canadian, but I live abroad in Seoul, South Korea. And what I do each week here in our bonus episode series at the Culips English podcast is I tell you some stories from my everyday life, and I hope by listening to these stories you will be able to improve your English fluency. If that is your goal, then you're in the right place. So lock in and let's do an English study session together. To accompany each and every bonus episode, there's a 100% free, no strings attached interactive transcript and vocabulary glossary that you can get just by clicking the link in the episode description. Plus, if you're a Culips member, then we'll also toss in a comprehension quiz. Culips wouldn't exist without the support of our members, so thank you so much to all the members out there. And if you'd like to sign up and become a member yourself, just visit our website, culips.com, and you can do that. Okay, so last week I told you the story of an amazing week I had, and I had an amazing week because of 3 reasons. The first reason was it was my birthday. The second reason was it was my wedding anniversary. And the third reason was that my wife and I adopted a new dog. So I'm going to tell you that story about the dog adoption process. So longtime Culips listeners will know that my wife and I had a dog named Pinky, but unfortunately he passed away from old age in 2023. And that was really, really tough. One of the toughest things I've personally ever had to go through in my life. And I know I'm blessed that the passing of a dog is one of the toughest things that I had to go through so far in my life, but it's true. And it really, really affected me and was a difficult time in my life. But it happened. And after Pinky passed away in September of 2023, my wife and I felt like we didn't really feel ready to get another dog yet. We had just moved into our new house a few months before that. And so we were busy just getting the house organized and decorated. And it just wasn't good timing for us to get another dog right away. Plus, we just weren't emotionally ready. I think both of us were really heartbroken about losing Pinky. And so, yeah, we decided for a little bit of time not to get a dog. We also wanted to go on some trips. And when you're a pet owner, it's difficult to go on a long vacation. But we wanted to do that. We had some bucket list places that we wanted to visit. We went back to Canada a couple of times. We went to Australia. We visited Singapore. We visited Hawaii. We visited Japan. It was an amazing time of travel in our lives. But now, flash forward a few years later, of course, we still miss Pinky every day. He will always be in our hearts, but we got the travel out of the way. We crossed those items off of our bucket list, and our house feels like we're kind of settled in now. It feels not so new. It's decorated and set up the way that we want it, and it just feels like a house now, a place where we live, instead of this project that we have to design and build. So our house feels like a home now. Our travel is out of the way, and we thought this spring, maybe it's time for us to get a new dog. And when I say get a new dog, we knew that we didn't want to adopt a puppy. A puppy is just a lot of work. And I think both of us realized with our busy schedules that it's going to be really difficult for us to have a dog right from the puppy stage. Although it would be amazing, I think maybe in the future sometime, I would like to have a dog from puppy all the way to, through its whole life. I think that would be a really cool process, but not this time. And Pinky was a senior dog. So when we had adopted him, he was already, it's hard to say, really. We're not sure. Just what the vet told us was probably he was like 10 to 13 years old when we adopted him. And then we had him for about 3-ish years before he passed away. And so who knows? He could have been anywhere between 13 and 16 years old. And again, that's just a guess when he passed. So we had a senior dog before. We didn't want a puppy. So we decided, let's get just an adult dog. And we knew that we didn't want to go to a pet store and buy a dog from a pet store or a breeder either, just because there are so many dogs here that need a home, that are in shelters. And when you go to a shelter and you visit the dogs or you see them online, it's just heartbreaking to think that they're in a cage at a shelter. And if no one adopts them, then they'll just have to be put down. So we knew that we wanted to get a dog just from a shelter. And so that's what we did. So we first just started talking about it. I don't know if I started the conversation or if my wife started the conversation, but somehow the conversation got started about adopting a dog. And so the first step was just looking online. My wife already follows quite a few dog shelters on Instagram, and I started following some as well. And it's just heartbreaking. Like every day there are these dogs that are posted online. They need a home, and I think any one of them would make a good pet. I'm actually not too picky. My wife asked what is my preference for a dog. And actually, I think I'm a big dog person. I like a big dog. And, my hobby is running. So in a perfect world, in an ideal world, I think I would like to adopt and have a big dog that I could take out for runs and maybe go hiking with in the mountains, something like that. In reality, though, that's not so easy. That's kind of a fantasy because we live in a small house and we have a small yard, and a big dog just wouldn't be a good fit. Also, raising a dog like that in the city, not so easy. A big dog needs a place to run and exercise. And although I'd like to think that I would take a big dog out running every day and take a big dog to the mountains, I don't even know if that's possible. Especially in the mountains. Maybe I think that might be illegal here in Korea. I'm not 100% sure, but I have a feeling that maybe that's not encouraged at least. So yeah, a big dog, although I'd love one, kind of ruled it out. And on the other hand, my wife, she likes totally the opposite. She likes the short, small, long dogs. Short, small, long dogs. Like a dachshund or a corgi. I think those are her favorite breeds. And although I'm into big dogs, I think those are my favorite, I really am agnostic here. And agnostic means to have no real preference when I use it in this kind of context, using the word agnostic. Although it's a religious word, when we use it in this kind of context, it means like you don't really care. I'm agnostic. So I didn't really have a preference. I thought as long as the dog is, not like a puppy, around maybe 3-4 years old at least, and is somewhat mature. And also I wanted a dog that was well behaved, calm, gentle, and a good fit for our home. I think my wife and we are calm and gentle. So we needed a dog that's calm and gentle as well. Our previous dog, Pinky, was that kind of dog, and it was such a good fit for our home. So we wanted that again, and a dog that doesn't bark, right? Because I'm a podcaster. If I'm recording a podcast and there's a dog barking in the background all the time, that would make for a really unpleasant listening experience for Culips listeners. So of course, we needed to get a dog that is quiet. And of course, I think all dogs bark at some point in their life. Even our super quiet dog, Pinky, barked once. I think I heard him bark once in his whole entire life, but he did do one bark at least. So yeah, anyways, that was our preference, was to get an adult dog, calm, quiet, and cute. Of course cute, but in terms of other things, we are pretty agnostic. Like I mentioned, we didn't care about breed. Also, we sort of wanted, if possible, to get maybe a dog that doesn't shed, and shed means to lose their hair. So many dog breeds do shed and lose their hair, but there are some who don't. And talking about Pinky again, our previous dog, Pinky, was a kind of dog who didn't shed. And it was just so nice compared to some of those shedding dogs where you get hair all over the place. And with our little house, it just makes it cleaner and neater to have a non-shedding type dog. So with those preferences aside, now that I say them out loud, it does sound like we are pretty picky. But yeah, we were pretty open-minded. So we went to a couple of shelters, and at one of the shelters, we met this poodle named Poppy, which I think is supposed to be the English name Poppy, but for whatever reason, many Korean people and many English learners around the world, I'm not going to say only Koreans, many people when they're learning English, and this is English's fault, I think, for the most part, is our crazy spelling system. Anyways, when you see an O in the English language, many people think, okay, O equals O. So if I see a word like poppy, Poppy, then I should say poppy. However, of course, as you guys know, English spelling is stupid and there's no one-to-one sound representation for our spelling system. So sometimes that O sound can be an O, but it can change to different sounds as well, depending on the context of the spelling of the word. And so for this word, actually it's pronounced poppy, right? With that aw sound instead of an O sound. So the dog's name was Poppy in Korean pronunciation, Poppy in English pronunciation. And yeah, we just immediately clicked. Like her personality was great, so calm, so gentle. When we visited the shelter, all of the other dogs get so stoked and excited that there's a visitor there. But Poppy was just calm, gentle, not really too enthusiastic about us being there. Although she was friendly and kind when we approached her, she let us pet her and was really nice and just, a very gentle, quiet dog. And we thought, maybe Poppy is the one. So we went home and we talked it over and we thought maybe Poppy is the dog for us. She's a poodle, so that means no shedding. Perfect. She's 6 years old, so right in that age range that we were looking for. Plus, she's calm, cool, and collected, and really just nice and gentle, which is the personality we were looking for. We went back home after, and we thought it over and talked it over for a bit. And my wife had actually volunteered at that shelter a couple of years ago. And she was looking at some of the pictures that she took during that volunteer session, and she noticed that she had a picture of her with Poppy at that time. So even 2 years ago, she had met Poppy, and I think this was even when Pinky was still alive. She was volunteering at that shelter, and so she was like, oh, I remember this dog. I met this dog before, and she was so nice and kind. Poppy's a female dog, by the way. So so Poppy was so nice and kind and cute, and my wife even had some pictures of her holding Poppy at that time. So we thought, it's destiny, it's meant to be, and also kind of heartbreaking that Poppy's been in the shelter for that long. As far as I know, Poppy's backstory is that she was born in a puppy mill, and a puppy mill is one of those places where the dogs are bred often just to make as many puppies as possible to sell. So not a really great place. And she was rescued from the puppy mill and then spent the last 4 years or so in a shelter. And originally the shelter she was in was like one of those caged shelters where the dogs are in cages for most of the day. Again, not a pleasant place to spend time, right? And then thankfully for the last little while, she was at a nicer shelter where she had space to run around and interact with other dogs. And actually, when we went to that shelter to visit her and just check out all the dogs at the shelter, actually, I thought, I don't know if Poppy will want to come to our house because this shelter is pretty good. Like there was a lot of space to run around. There were other dogs to play with. There were couches to sit on and chill at and stuff. So I thought maybe Poppy will be a little bit disappointed to come to our house. But of course, if we can take Poppy out of that shelter, that opens one more space so a dog who's in a cage can go to the better shelter, right? So in the end, it's always a good thing. So we decided, okay, Poppy is the dog for us. So we applied to adopt her, and there was a pretty extensive application process. We had to fill out some forms. I think we even had to share our social media accounts with the shelter because they wanted to see what kind of people we are, what kind of house we live in, what kind of jobs we have, all of these things, just to make sure that we're a good fit and are mature enough to have a dog, right? I guess they've been maybe burned in the past by people who have adopted dogs and then either abandoned them or returned them or something like that. Not a good action, something like that. So we went through the application process and we were approved, thankfully. And the shelter called us and they were like, can you take Poppy tomorrow? I think this is 1 or 2 days after we applied. And we are sort of shocked, like, oh my God, tomorrow? I don't know if we're ready for tomorrow, but we arranged it for the end of the week. So Poppy came to us on Friday and it was amazing. The shelter delivered her. They drove her to our home and handed her over to us. And they brought us a lot of supplies as well. So they set us up with some food and like a leash and harness and all of the things that you need when keeping a dog. Mind you, we already had most of this from Pinky. When Pinky passed away, we didn't throw out his things. So we were able to hand a lot of Pinky's possessions down to Poppy. So that was awesome. And this is a good word to know, guys. A hand-me-down. A hand-me-down is an item that we pass from one person to another person. In this case, it was a dog, right? From Pinky to Poppy. But usually we use this when we're talking about kids. I'm the oldest in my family. I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And so when I was growing up, I was the lucky one. I got all of the new things, the new toys, the new clothes. But when I outgrew those, then they were passed down to my brother and my sister. And we call that a hand-me-down. So unfortunately, my younger brother probably got a lot of my old clothes that he had to wear and not as many new clothes for himself as I did. I guess that's just the way things go in a family. So yeah, Poppy had a lot of hand-me-downs from Pinky, and the shelter also hooked us up with some stuff for having a dog. So amazing. Now, one thing we weren't so sold on, we were really sold on Poppy, on the dog itself, but we weren't very attached to the name. We're like, Poppy, or as I said, in Korean, the Korean pronunciation is Poppy. And I just wasn't really into it. My wife also wasn't really into it. Of course, a poppy is a kind of flower, which is a beautiful flower, but it's also the flower that you use to make heroin with. So I don't know. It's got that connotation sort of buried in there. And in Canada, a poppy is the flower that we use for Remembrance Day, to remember the soldiers who passed in the 2 world wars. So it's also got like that connotation. So I don't know, we just weren't really sold on the name Poppy. And so we decided, okay, we'll change the name. I searched online and what I learned is that dogs aren't too attached to their names. So it's okay if you change it. And so we decided, okay, let's change Poppy. And we went back and forth and just brainstorming different names for a few days. My wife and I, that's all we talked about, was like, how about this name? How about that name? How about this name? How about that name? And we narrowed it down to a list of several contenders, top contenders, but we couldn't decide. And at the end of the day, we decided, let's just rock, paper, scissors. And the winner of the rock, paper, scissors has to pick a name by tomorrow morning. And that name is final, no going back. So we rock, paper, scissored, and it turns out I was the winner of the rock, paper, scissors. So I had a few names in my mind. I slept on it. I woke up the next morning and I told my wife, okay, the name of our new dog is going to be Owal. Owal. And Owal means May in the Korean language. O means 5 and Wal means month. So 5th month, May, and we got the dog in May. She joined our family in May. And so it just seemed like a good fit. And I was kind of laughing to my wife because if you say this name quickly and kind of the English way, if you don't, and sometimes I'm lazy, right? Sometimes my Korean pronunciation, if I'm tired or lazy, or just even this word is a little bit difficult to say in general, to be honest with you, that wal is a little bit difficult for me to say accurately. So when I'm lazy and I say her name quickly, I say it kind of like Owali, Owali. And I was laughing because Owa loves our sofa. That's like her safe space in our home. And she's been with us now for about a week and is adjusting to life in our home. But she's a bit skittish and a bit scared. And it's going to take her a little while, I think, to fully trust us and feel like we're her owners and get attached to us and bonded to us. Although I think my wife and I were already really attached and bonded To Owal, I don't know if she's feeling exactly the same way about us quite yet. So she loves our sofa. We've set up a safe space on the sofa for her with some blankets and pillows, and that's where she hangs out. But the sofa is green. Our sofa is green colored, and green is the color of Ireland, right? Stay with me here. Okay, so Ireland, green, and also many family names from Ireland, like the surname, start with O. So it just means of, I think. We'd have to ask Alina, our Discord moderator, about this because she's based out of Ireland. Her husband's Irish and she lives there, so she'll know about this better than I do. But think about celebrities like the famous talk show host Conan O'Brien, right? His family name is O'Brien, and of course he's American, but his family comes from Ireland. So I think that means something like he comes of Brian, right? Maybe a long time ago in the past, the patriarch of that family was named Brian, so he's of Brian or son of Brian. It means something like that. Another famous comedian from the USA is Rosie O'Donnell, and she's got family links to Ireland as well, so O'Donnell. There's lots of different family names that start with O in Ireland. So it's kind of funny, O'Wally. I was like, maybe we have an Irish lass on our hands because her name sounds a little bit Irish and she loves the green couch. I don't know. I was joking with my wife about that this morning and I found it entertaining at least. So anyways, yeah, Owa is the newest member of our family and she loves to go on walks. She's really well behaved. She's only barked once in the whole week that she's been here. And that was because I was doing a fake bark and that set her off. And she started barking after she heard me do a fake bark. So I realized I got to make sure that I don't do a fake barking sound. Or else maybe she'll start barking as well. But if people walk by or visitors come to the house, the mailman comes to the house or delivery guys, totally fine, no barking at all, and just really calm and cool and chill, even around other dogs when we go out for a walk. And maybe best of all, guys, you know, my hobby is running. When I took Owal out for her first walk, I was curious, will she enjoy jogging or running? And so I did just a little jog to see if she would run with me, and she did, and she seemed to be really enjoying it. So I think I've got a new running buddy lined up, and I kind of thought that she might like running because a few years ago, I dog sat for one of my buddies when he was on vacation, and he had a poodle, also similar to Owal, a little bit bigger, and his name was Peter Poodle. And I took Peter Poodle out for a walk and we started running together and Peter Poodle just loved it. We ended up doing like a 5K run and the dog was so fast, way faster than me. I almost broke a personal record with Peter Poodle because he ran so fast that I could barely keep up with him. I think we ran 5K in like 19 minutes or something. And he still wanted to go even more, but I was tired and I was tuckered out and had to stop. So yeah, I knew that poodles liked to run and I thought maybe, just maybe, Owa will enjoy running as well. And it looks like she does. So yeah, Owa is our newest family member. My wife and I are super happy to have her as being a part of our family and our home. And it's also great for the relationship between my wife and me because we can go out for walks. And during that time, while we're walking Owa, we can chat and we can catch up. And that was just something that we missed after Pinky passed because although we would go out and take some walks together, you're not really forced to in the same way that you are when you have a dog and you must walk the dog. So yeah, it's been a nice little change here. Owal's only been at our house for a week, but it's been a great week. My wife and I really, and Owal as well, I think, because really Owal won the jackpot. Coming from a shelter to our house, I don't think there are too many houses where she can live as luxurious lifestyle as she can at our place with my wife and I kind of spoiling her. We have to make sure that we don't spoil her too much, but she lacks for nothing. Let's just put it that way at our home. So I think Owa won the jackpots and my wife and I feel like we won the jackpot as well and got connected with a new best friend and a new pet. All right, guys, it's time for me to go. Thank you for listening all the way to the end of this story. Culips members, make sure to take the comprehension quiz to check how much you are able to understand. If you're not a Culips member yet, visit our website, culips.com, for all of the details and to sign up. Before I let you go, I need to tell you this week's completion code. So let's go with the completion code Poodle. Poodle. And now what I want you to do is make an example sentence using this word poodle. Leave it in the comments either on our Discord community, our Instagram page, or our YouTube page if you're watching the video version of this episode. And that will signal to me and to our entire Culips community that you finished this episode and you completed an English study session with me today, which, by the way, amazing job on doing. This is what you need to do to improve your fluency, is spend time with the language, get it into your head, get comfortable with it, and you did that today. So amazing, amazing job. Take care. Have a great week of English studying up ahead, and I'll talk to you in the next episode. Until then, bye-bye.